just a ceremonial forced me to give some reminder to the judges. So this is a special session for us career researcher. So don't forget to give some mark. Okay, next speaker is the from India. Abhihiru Saha and Bhattacharya. So Abhihiru will be talking about the effects of tidal influence on the development of the fluvial sequence stratigraphic architecture, a study from the Permian barren measures formations, PRANHITA-GODAVARI Basin in southern India. So it's an online presentation.
Good morning, everyone. The title of this presentation is Effects of Tidal Influence on the Development of the Fluvial Sequence Stratigraphic Architecture, a study from the Permian barren measures formation, PRANHITA-GODAVARI Basin, southern India. The contents of this presentation are shown here at the top, which will guide you through this presentation. It is known that the stratigraphic architecture in a rock record is generated by the interplay of multiple autogenic and allogenic processes. The stratigraphic architecture in a basin are affected either due to shoreline movements or are independent of them. In an upstream control settings, the stratal stacking patterns are developed by the interplay of accommodation, climate, source area uplift, and autocyclic mechanisms, which modifies the balance between sediment supply and energy flux. However, very less attention has been paid to understand the role of allogenic controls in upstream control settings, such as the effects of tides in the development of stratal stacking pattern, independent of shoreline movements. Thus, there exists a gap in understanding the nature of interplay between autogenic and allogenic controls responsible for development of different stratal stacking patterns in non-marine continental fluvial system, independent of shoreline movements. Which brings us to the aim of the study, to investigate the controlling mechanisms of autogenic and allogenic processes responsible for development of different stratal stacking patterns in the Middle Permian barren measures formation, which provides the opportunity to study these mechanisms in the frame of upstream controlled fluvial depositional system. To achieve the aim and address the research gap, a workflow methodology has been carefully devised, which includes the literature study, based on which the fieldwork is done. During the fieldwork, data and sample collection are done for further sedimentological and sequence stratigraphic analysis. Under sedimentological analysis, facies analysis includes identifying a body of rock with specified characteristics that reflect the conditions prevalent during its time of deposition. After this, facies associations are identified which reflect the combination of processes, and therefore the paleodepositional conditions are inferred. Repetitive occurrence of lithofacies and their lateral correlation helps in identification of the facies architecture, and thus the paleodepositional conditions are inferred. Sequence stratigraphic analysis reveals the stratal stacking pattern defined by the geometric relationship, architecture of sedimentary strata, and nature of bounding surfaces between them, which in turn helps in identification of the system strats defined as relatively conformable succession of genetically related strata bounded by conformable or unconformable sequence stratigraphic surfaces. So combining all these techniques will help us in reconstructing the paleodepositional model. Stratigraphically, the barren measures formation is of Middle Permian age, which lies in between Borakor and Kamti formation. According to Biswas 2003, the PRANHITA-GODAVARI Basin is an intracratonic rift basin where sedimentation of barren measures formation took place during the Syn rift phase of basin evolution. This is the map of India showing the distribution of different Gondwana basin, and this is PRANHITA-GODAVARI Basin. A geological map of the PRANHITA-GODAVARI Basin showing the location of different study areas. A Google Earth image showing the location of the study areas along the Godavari River, where location A is named as Ramagundam section, B is named as Indaram section, and C as Chennur section. A detailed geological map of the study area showing the 1 kilometer long stretch of the studied sections along which different facies types of barren measure formation are exposed. Facies analysis reveals the presence of basal erosional surface, concave up channel geometry, large trough cross stratification with pebbles, large planar tabular cross stratification, horizontal laminations formed in coarse grained sandstones, ferruginous pebbly sandstone, lensoidal conglomerate occurring as basal lag deposit, all of which implies their deposition under high energy unidirectional current within a channel, which constitutes this conglomerate sandstone facies association. Facies analysis of the sandstone-mudstone facies association reveals the presence of tidal bundles, which are defined as a series of sandstone foresets, with each sandstone foreset sandwiched between two consecutive mud drifts. The tidal bundles often show sudden change in inclination of the foresets, which is defined as reactivation surface. A neap spring neap tidal cyclicity is identified from the systematic change in the thickness of the sandstone-mudstone layers. The foresets dominated by sand are created during spring tide, while the foresets dominated by mud are created during neap tide. Oppositely directed cross-strata sets are present in the study area. Sigmoidal cross stratifications are identified by the low angle dip of the top set, followed by steeply inclined foreset separated by a brink point. Flexure beddings are characterized by millimeter thick discontinuous mud draped troughs. All these features indicate deposition of channel and overbank deposits under tidal influence. Facies analysis of mudstone facies association indicates their deposition by suspension fallout under low energy calm environment which has undergone post-depositional modifications. Field photographs showing the sharp nature of contact between the different facies types in the study area shown by the dotted lines and a concave up channel geometry of the sand bodies. So from the 1 kilometer long stretch of the exposed outcrops near the study sections, vertical sedimentary lithologs of Ramagundam, Indram and Chennur sections are constructed, which shows the distribution of different facies types, primary sedimentary structures, soft sediment deformation structures and tidal features. Within each of these lithologs, the distribution of different facies associations are shown using different colors throughout the succession. Also, multiple finding upward cycles are identified, which are grouped into two major finding upward succession, named as finding upward succession 1 and finding upward succession 2. The finding upward succession 1 is comprised of coarsening up stratal stacking pattern below and a finding up stratal stacking pattern above. The coarsening up stratal stacking pattern is characterized by the dominance of vertically stacked multi-storied amalgamated channel and bar sand bodies with discontinuous overbank deposits. The finding up stratal stacking pattern is dominated by less amalgamated single-storied channel sand bodies with relatively abundant overbank deposits. At the base of the multiple finding upward cycles within the finding up stratal stacking pattern, large subsediment deformation structures are present which are recurrent but non-periodic in nature. In our paper, Bhattacharya and Saha 2020, published in the Journal of Paleogeography, we have established that these sandstones, which bear the large subsediment deformation structures, are classified as seismites, which signify as a marker to an active seam rift tectonosedimentary setting within the peninsular India. Similarly, the coarsening of stratal stacking pattern in finding upward succession 2 is characterized by the presence of lensoidal conglomerate deposits and vertically stacked multi-storied amalgamated sandstones with minor overbank deposits. The finding upward stratal stacking pattern in finding upward succession 2 is dominated by overbank deposits with isolated channel sandstones bearing tidal signatures. Thus, 4 bounding surfaces are identified in this study area based on the changing nature of the stratal stacking patterns. The predominance of the fluvial sediments in the study area, absence of any open marine features, the presence of minor tidal features, changing channel to overbank ratio, and the different stratal stacking patterns reveal an upstream controlled facies architecture in the basin. The sequence stratigraphic architecture also implies sedimentation mechanisms unconnected to shoreline movements. Thus, a coarsening up stratal stacking pattern with a high channel to overbank ratio indicates the deposition of high amalgamation system tracts in the lower part of the succession. Above this bounding surface, a stratal stacking pattern dominated by overbank deposits, isolated channels, and reduced frequency of channel avulsion reflects a low channel to overbank ratio, thus defining low amalgamation systems tract. The overlying HAST2 are characterized by laterally and vertically stacked amalgamated channel deposits, coastal lag deposits, and relatively thicker overbank deposits compared to HAST1. The LAST2 deposits are characterized by relatively thicker overbank deposits compared to LAST1, but the tidal signatures are encountered only within LAST2 near the top part of the successions. Thus, an overall retrogradational trend depicts a change from dominantly fluvial braided river deposit at the base to a tide-influenced fluvio-tidal transitional zone indicating transgressive estuarine condition at the top. The multi-storied nature of the HAST1 and HAST2 deposits implies autogenic control such as frequent channel avulsion, which erodes the overbank deposits and prevented overbank aggradation. The LAST1 and LAST2 deposits, on the contrary, signify more flooded condition of the river system, with relatively less frequent channel avulsion. The abrupt change from HAST to LAST and the presence of seismite beds at the base of LAST deposits definitely points to a tectonic control in the basin. Thus, the flooding within the LAST deposits are caused by tectonic subsidence as a result of the reactivation of basin marginal faults, which generates accommodation space, while the sediment supply remains constant or is effectively decreased. The tidal influence near the top part of the succession modifies the river equilibrium profile by reducing the rate of sediment supply and obstructing the energy flux from the fluvial side. Such an hindrance generates net accommodation space. Thus, a positive shift in the ratio of accommodation to sediment supply resulted in a stratal stacking pattern dominated by overbank deposits within the LAST2 near the top part of the successions. Thus, the present case study reveals that the flooding events are caused by tectonic subsidence within an upstream control setting, which are further accentuated by the encroaching tidal water, which in the present case acted as an allogenic factor, modifying the channel to overbank ratios, thus creating thicker overbank deposits near the top part of the succession. Thus, the presence of tidal signatures within any seam rift basin from other parts of the world may be regarded as a crucial regulating element for the development of sequence stratigraphic architecture apart from the typical autogenic and allogenic processes in the upstream control settings. These are the references used in this presentation. Thank you for your patient hearing.
Thank you, Abiru, for interesting talk. Are you there?
Sir, good morning. I am present here.
Okay. We have time for questions. Apparently, no questions from the audience. Do we have any?
Yes,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
What was the tectonic setting which caused the fault control subsidence?
This is an intradynamic rift setting.
Great, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, what time is it now in India?
I am in my final year of PhD.
Okay, so it's nice to meet you through online presentations. Okay, thank you.